We have been using Talk for Writing for about 5 years now. We originally started to use it to raise standards in writing, but we've found out that it's led to a whole school transformation in reading and writing and in other areas of the curriculum. We are a large primary school, currently expanding to 3-form entry. At the moment we have 571 pupils on our roll. The school has a very diverse community, with 94% of our children coming from minority ethnic groups. 87% of our children do not have English as a first language, and the proportion of children at School Action Plus or with a statement is 10% above the national average. Our school population is very mobile. Only 36% of our current Year 6 children were in nursery. And last year we had 20 children that were newly arrived into Year 1 and expected to sit the phonics screening test. So we needed an engaging curriculum to meet the needs of our children. We found that children come into school with a real paucity in language, both in their home language or in English. So we needed to give the children many opportunities to talk. There is much research that shows that children achieve better where there are lots of opportunities for rich talk within the classroom.
So we had a very tough Ofsted inspection in 2008, which was satisfactory, and that's when our Talk for Writing project started. Really, we had Pi in school to do some whole staff training to introduce the concepts of Talk for Writing. We followed that up with lots of in-house training ourselves. We were inspected again in 2012, again satisfactory, and although we had made improvements to teaching and learning, attainment still wasn't high enough to be graded any better than satisfactory. But the biggest difference was embarking on a Transforming Writing project, which was run by Pi and involved schools from all over the country, and it was raising attainment by use of formative assessment. So a lot of our work is driven by the outcomes of that project. Our work on Transforming Writing and in Talk for Writing more generally have seen a big improvement in our teaching and learning. Now you'd see consistent practice across the school. As children and teachers internalise the principles of Talk for Writing, so we see continually rising expectations from classroom to classroom.
Not only is the practice consistent throughout the school, but the learning that the children are doing is also visible. Progression is evident from year group to year group because any work that's been done in the classrooms is placed clearly on the working wall. This gives anyone, the leadership team, an opportunity to go around the school and see what the children are doing at any point. And from there, it's also evident how the children are working in groups, whether we're meeting the needs of pupil premium children, children with special educational needs, or children that have been grouped specifically to meet the needs of their learning.
What we've seen working with Talk for Writing and Transforming Writing is a real culture of collaboration and co-construction, lots of shared writing, lots of shared reading. It all leads to a real immersion in the text type and, for teachers, immersion in the planning so that we can really focus in on assessment for learning and get that right. We also expect this culture of collaboration between teachers too, so that we work together to find the best ways of doing things for our own children. And this really deepens our subject knowledge and our pedagogical knowledge too, so that we breed lots of Talk for Writing experts in school.
Our behaviour for learning is excellent because the children are so engaged by what they're being taught. They really have a love of reading now, and there's even some spontaneous homework or children wanting to stay in at break time or lunchtime to do some reading or writing.
One of the biggest changes that we've implemented is to have teachers planning their English lessons on the computer flip charts that they will use to present to children. So what that's done is it's freed up teacher time to really focus on the learning and not just a written plan for somebody else. Those extra hours over the week invested in planning has meant that we teachers can really focus on scaffolding work and differentiating appropriately, because we have a very wide range of needs at school, and it's important that we spend the time preparing resources, preparing learning for children rather than writing plans.
The Transforming Writing project hasn't just influenced teaching and learning within the school, it's also made us really consider how we develop our teachers and therefore what we do to continually develop them. So it's impacted on our CPD programme, and we've moved away from one-off sessions and now continually return to things that we're working on with staff.
Our CPD programme is much more research-based now. That includes research from outside of school, but it also includes class-based research. So we'd do things in our CPD sessions like giving some input on an aspect of Talk for Writing, such as shared writing or the teaching of reading comprehension, and we'll give teachers the time to discuss, reflect and try things out in their classrooms so that we're consistent in our principles but flexible in our practices. Teachers would be expected to go away and figure out how one particular strategy works best in their own classrooms. Our CPD sessions are also delivered by a range of teachers from across the school, and that's because our work on Talk for Writing, and particularly the Transforming Writing project, has developed a number of Talk for Writing specialists in our school. Teachers really take responsibility for their own learning and are much more able now to talk as an expert in different areas of Talk for Writing that they know about. This academic year we've also employed a teaching and learning coach, and this coach would spend time in classrooms modelling lessons, doing some team teaching, doing some joint planning or joint marking, with the expectation that there's quick, high quality feedback given to teachers. We know from the Transforming Writing project that formative assessment can make a real difference in reading and writing, and so we're looking here to apply the principles of formative assessment to teachers' CPD. But we've also looked for other opportunities to provide CPD for teachers. So one example is that during assemblies we'd ask teachers from around the school to comment on bits of writing that children present in their class assemblies. This gives teachers a wider range of experiences to boost their subject knowledge. For example, a Year 1 teacher may never really get to see work from a Year 5 or a Year 6 child, and so it gives them an opportunity to talk about the writing that they've heard and they've seen, to really develop subject knowledge a bit more than they would typically get if they're just working in their own classrooms. A real change in the last year and a half or so has been our use of ICT in terms of our CPD work. So we now have a CPD blog, which in the beginning played the role of the minutes folder on a shared drive, but now the information presented on the blog and the work done through it is a much more live version of a minutes file. So there's videos, there's teacher responses to CPD sessions, so that at any time people can go back, look through some records of what's happened in CPD sessions and just continually revisit things so that we can really deepen understanding of our key strategies. A number of teachers at school now are using Twitter a lot, and this is a good way of increasing our own personal reading. There's lots of very good blogs out there written by educators and people in positions of authority within the education system. And so we really encourage this extra reading around teaching to further our own thinking about CPD and about the strategies we use. We've also looked into using YouTube as a way of recording what teachers are doing in their classrooms, and those recordings then serve as support for other staff. One example is that we record teachers talking over their text maps for each Talk for Writing unit, and that video can be used in a number of ways. First of all, children can use it at home to access a text map and some quality speaking from their teachers at home. Another reason that we do that is to show other teachers, and other teachers can see the quality of text that others are using across the school, so we can share our practice. Our work on Talk for Writing, and more specifically in the Transforming Writing project, has seen some real improvements in maths as well as English. So there are some aspects of Talk for Writing that we can apply to maths. For example, boxing up as a way of thinking about a mathematical problem. We've also used the principles of writers' toolkits in terms of, to achieve a certain effect, a writer could do one of a number of things. We've tried to do that with maths as well. So, say for subtraction, there are a number of different methods that a child might use in order to subtract depending on the numbers. And so we tried to find links from Talk for Writing to other areas, and we've seen real improvements as well. Our math results are as good, if not better, than reading and writing. And so we've seen a real crossover of some important strategies from transforming writing into maths. This academic year we've welcomed a number of NQTs into school, and having Talk for Writing, a very structured system of teaching in place, has been really supportive of their induction and the beginnings of their CPD. So NQTs can go into any different classroom and see how each class is adopting the principles of Talk for Writing. So there's always someone to talk to, there's always other support across the school.
The leadership of Talk for Writing is all about improved outcomes for children. Talk for Writing needs the direct leadership and support of the head teacher, but also for senior leaders to be driving it forward, and also the teachers with the day-to-day reflecting on the principles of Talk for Writing and how it looks in their classroom. The dialogue between all of these is particularly important so that everyone knows where the process is going. When Talk for Writing is a whole school approach, teaching assistants are expected to teach alongside the teachers and be seen as writers. So there's an obvious focus for their appraisal now. Talk for Writing has influenced our pay policy and our own identity. The focus for us is to get to good or better teaching, and then when people have achieved that, they are then expected to coach and to develop other members of staff. Our recruitment process now is also driven by Talk for Writing. Not only do we advertise that we're a Talk for Writing school, and this attracts teachers in their own right, but also when people are coming for interview, we send them out information about Talk for Writing and ask them to show us what they can do. Our policies for teaching and learning and marking and feedback are live documents. They're added to all of the time when people are reflecting on practice and tweaked to meet the needs of the children.
So over the last 5 years or so, we've put a lot of work into Talk for Writing, but we need to judge the impact of those actions and continually review things to make sure that we're providing the best outcomes for children.
So what's been the impact of Talk for Writing in Key Stage 1? Previously, before we fully embedded Talk for Writing within the school, we were below the national average in writing. Now we are broadly in line with the national average and have been for the past 3 years. At level 3, our writing is only 2% below the national average, despite the challenges that we are faced with. Year upon year, we're getting better, as our APS gain in reading and writing is improving and the gap between the school and the national average is closing. Our gap between pupil premium children and those that do not receive pupil premium is less than the national average gap.
We're now starting to see good results from children that have been doing Talk for Writing for a number of years. Average point score in reading and writing is broadly in line with national average. Our children in receipt of pupil premium funding are broadly in line with national average for all children, not just pupil premium children nationally. The progress that last year's Year 6 children made was outstanding, and it put them in the 6th percentile for writing and the 4th percentile for reading, which is an outstanding achievement for a school with our context. These results mean that